Hi everyone, welcome back. This week we talk about the use of territory and space to communicate nonverbally. This has its own specific term in nonverbal communication, which is proxemics. That's a mouthful. But your discussion board for this topic deals with power distances and sort of the differences between males and females and how they utilize space in power settings. Um, and I wanted to make a note here. This is what's considered a survey course, which means that we cover a lot of different topics, but not super in depth. And because of that, because it's sort of difficult to get in depth, we tend to sort of assume traditional, like cultural and gender norms. But I don't want you to think by any means that the study of nonverbal communication can only work one way. You know, it's not a heteronormative thing, and our norms are changing anyway. So, as we go through, we will often talk about sort of traditional relationship dynamics, but I don't want you to feel limited by that in your study. Um, so, our personal use of space is something that's really interesting, kind of what we would consider our personal bubble, right? So, your activity report asks you to talk about territory. And culturally speaking, Americans tend to love their stuff, right? And we use our stuff to communicate about ourselves. We use our stuff to communicate that it's ours. We love the ownership part of that for some reason. And so you're going to talk about territorial encroachments, and the three forms of that are either violation, contamination, or invasion. So you're going to pick one that either you've done to somebody or that somebody has done to you, and you're going to kind of analyze that retroactively and discuss it. So we use our stuff to communicate with others, right? And a great example of this is I have a buddy who started dating this girl and he really liked her, and we were kind of chatting one day and he was like, yeah, she asked if she could leave, you know, she was spending a bunch of time at my house, and so she asked if she could leave a toothbrush. And I was like, yeah, sure, babe, go for it. um and then, you know, a few weeks later I get this call and my friend was like, Mackenzie, this girl's stuff is everywhere. Like, there's a blow dryer, there's a razor in my shower, there's makeup, she has stuff in my closet, there's stuff in the drawers. Like, I mean, she was making a very clear statement about how she feels about him and how she feels about the future of the relationship. This could also be considered a marking territory, so she wanted to make it very clear to any other females that may be there that she was indeed an active presence in this guy's life. And so just by, you know, adding her physical objects to his space, she was basically saying like, look, I'm in your life now. And we don't really think about that until it kind of happens to us. But a lot of things like roommates, we've all probably had roommates, even if it was just your parents. But when you have a defined space, all of a sudden your roommates or your parents or your kids or your significant other doing something in that space becomes a really big issue, right? Um, so cohabitating is a really big issue for a lot of couples because you don't necessarily know what to expect. No matter how much time you spend with somebody, you don't know what living with them is going to be like, right? So the first time, I am a person that requires a lot of personal space and a lot of time by myself. And when I moved in with a boyfriend for the first time, it was a giant culture shock to me because I was not used to all of a sudden this person was just there, and they were there all the time and they didn't go away, and I had to deal with that, and it took a lot of time to adjust to. Um, Space is also a cultural thing. So how much space is available will kind of determine how we view space. So if you're used to rural living and you have all the space in the world, you're gonna by nature want more free space. If you grew up in an urban area where people are just kind of all, you know, on top of you, beside of you, next to you at all times, you have a little bit lower threshold for, how much personal space you require because you're used to that. And there's a bunch of rules about the use of space or territory that I just think are really, really interesting. So I didn't realize this, and I'll actually post the link because it's kind of cool. I had a student a few semesters ago tell me about this game that you can play, and it's on urinal etiquette, where you have this little avatar and you go in and you have to pick like the right urinal because apparently there's a right urinal. So based on where other men are in the bathroom, there's like a specific spot that you should go to. I had no idea. No idea, but it's a thing and I'll post the link, so you're welcome. Um, Guys are also interesting. I have not noticed this, but I'm not a guy, so that's probably part of the reason why. But a lot of my guy friends will say that there's a buffer seat. So, like, if they go to a movie, and that like two guys going to a movie, they'll put a seat in between them. So there's a buffer seat, which is a thing, I guess. I don't know. There people do different things on dates, right? So some people will sit next to each other in a booth, or some people will sit like way across from each other. There's a right answer to this, but the actual optimum spacing on a date or in an early relationship is at a square table at 90-degree angles because it allows you to look away from the partner when you need a visual break. It allows open conversation and it does not seem either too intimate or too adversarial. So that's kind of fun. Um, so this is a full service class. And because of that, I'm going to give both ladies and gentlemen fun facts. So ladies, you're up first. Um, if you are trying to have a serious conversation with a man, you should do it while sitting next to him, not across from him. And the reason is that men are socialized at a very early age to do things side by side. So they play games side by side, they play videos, they play sports, they do things, activities in a side by side nature because it's not inherently um, sort of confrontational the way one on one could be. That's where fights come in, right? So if you want to discuss a delicate topic, you should sit next to him so he's more at ease. Guys, your fun fact on this is that women really value direct eye contact and a lot of it. So if you want to have a serious conversation, you should position yourself so that you can make the most eye contact with your partner. Um, which obviously these two things are highly at odds, but that's what makes relationships just messy and amazing. So that's a little bit about territoriality and space and proxemics, and I will be in touch really soon.